Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. For this video I'm going back to 1/48 scale. Now in my last video at that scale I was building my house, but after I built the house I got a bit of a urge to get on with things, and I ordered and built some new kits, and these are two of them, and they are for the miniature kitchen. Now I've got a little vintagey electric oven, cooker even, and I've got a vintage kitchen sideboard. Now it's my plan for this house for it to have been last modernised in any way, shape or form, however briefly, sort of late 70s, early 80s. So it's been sort of left as is for a good 40 years. But the entire house is not going to have been brought up to date at this point. So I decided that this piece, which sort of looks like it could be older, would be ideal. It's not broke, why get rid of it? And then the cooker looks like something that could have been in use then. Now I also want a miniature fridge, and that's what I'm going to be working on today, and I'm going to be making this from scratch. Now this week, in a change to my usual food packaging, I've got some board that's actually supposed to be some game pieces from something that wasn't actually wanted. So rather than it go into the recycling, because some of it had been obliterated, shall we say, I'm going to use some of it to make my fridge. And it's a fairly thick, maybe a little bit thinner than some of my food packaging, and it's got a bit of a sheen that doesn't have. So we're going to use that. And I've cut, for this purpose, two strips, and they are 11 and 12 millimeters wide. I have marked the 11 millimeter one, although I can tell that they're different sizes. Now the fridge that I'm going to make is actually based on one that my family had when I was young. So I'm very much sort of operating off memories. But what I did find is I found a sort of similar fridge, which was an under-the-counter fridge on the internet with sizing. Now I have converted the sizing from the original inches, well it was a 1970s piece, into millimetres and then down to 1/48 scale, and that's where I got the 12 and the 11 millimetres, which are to be the front and the side dimensions. Now this is not going to be a fridge with a separate, opening door, that kind of thing. I'm not worried about the inside. So I'm going to cut the pieces from these strips and take it from there. Now that I've got all my pieces, I have got two pieces that are 12 by 18, two pieces that are 11 by 18, and two pieces that are 11 by 12. So I've got front and back, two sides, and top and bottom. And I'm going to start off putting it together, probably from the back, and I'm going to try and build what is basically going to be a fridge box. That's going to be my first step, is just to build the box. Now that I've made my basic box, which sort of compares to the unit to about the scale that I wanted it to, so I am actually working at the right scale to look right with the pieces I've got. I did check that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some details. So I have cut from my 12 millimeter piece two more pieces of that strip. Now the one I cut to 12 by about 13, and that's going to be the lid, the very top of my fridge. And what I want it to do is I want it to sort of stick out enough to sort of cover the door. So I did that a little bit longer. I did trim both of these pieces down, so they're actually less than 12 but more than 11, to account for the fact that I've got extra width. And then this piece I cut to 17 because I want a little bit left at the bottom, so that you get that sort of effect that you get on a lot of appliances, of there being a bit of a gap at the bottom. So I'm going to stick the door on, and like so. Obviously it'll be a bit straighter than it looks at the moment, and hopefully this is all enough in focus, if you can see that. And what I've also done is I've cut a couple of thinner strips, which I didn't measure. I cut these with my paper trimmer by eye. The thicker one is to make the front of the handle piece, and then this thinner one is to make the bit that goes behind and actually lifts it away from the door. And what I've got here is actually 4 layers. 2 layers of the bigger one, and then 2 layers of the smaller one. And then that is going to stick onto the front, obviously a bit straighter than this. It's actually probably a bit bigger than the original one was, but hey-ho, can't win them all. Now I'm going to stick the door on, and then I'm going to start looking at putting some paint on. I'm going to put some white paint onto the main body of the fridge, but the lid, I keep calling it the lid, the very top piece and the front of my little handle piece need to be done in a brown, because they were actually a fake wood veneer. It wasn't in any way, shape or form wood, but it was printed to look like a wood veneer. So I'm going to do those with some brown alcohol ink, just to give it a bit of authenticity. So I have stuck everything on. I've put my little fake wood veneered top and my handle, and I've given it all a coat of white paint. Now I haven't been too exact with the painting, because this is supposed to be in a house that has been empty for a good many years, but I'm really pleased. It looks about as close as I'm going to get to the real fridge that I'm trying to replicate in 1/48 scale. Now, next step is, I think, to dress it, because obviously when it goes in the house it's going to look a bit bare if I just put it in like that. So I'm going to have a bit of a think about what I can put on the top to make it look a bit more lived in. I know lived in isn't the right word, but a bit more used, because although this house is supposed to be haunted and currently not occupied, it's not unmaintained. At least that's the kind of plan that I've got for it. So I'm going to go off and have a look and see what I've got and see what I can come up with. Now, I've been away and I had a good long think about what I could use to dress the top of the fridge. And obviously there needed to be something there, but I wasn't sure what. So I started with this. Now this is my representation of a tray. When I was a child, we had a lot of round metal trays, and that was what I was trying to replicate. And I did this with a hole punch and 160 GSM cardstock. It's the stuff I normally put through my printer. I've got some offcuts, because when I do print anything on the printer, I keep all the little bits and use them for things like this. And then I cut a strip that is about 1 millimetre. It wasn't measured, I just cut it off with my paper trimmer as thinly as I could and glued it round. And then I used a alcohol marker, in this case Buttercup Yellow, to give it some colour. And I quite like that, and it looks quite good against the brown on the top of the fridge. And then obviously I need something to stand on the tray. And so I tried to make a miniature mug. And I ended up making this. This is about as small as I could go, but it is still far too large to be a mug. So I'm going to say it's a jug. And this is, if you can see it, I don't know how close I can actually get to the camera and it still be in any kind of focus. It's a piece of a cotton swab stick. It's a plastic one which I am hoarding. I kept some, and every last millimetre is going to end up being used. And then a piece of the same paper cardstock that I used on the edge of the tray, stuck on for a handle. Now I'm going to put that on top of there, and I think I'm going to put something in it so that it looks like it's been used for flowers at some point and they're dyed. And I actually have a piece of wire that I have painted brown that is sitting over on the side of my desk, drying off at this moment. Now I don't know if these are going to end up going on the top of the fridge or whether I'll put them onto the kitchen cupboard, but I have also made some little tiny containers by gluing seed beads together and then putting a tiny little spot of 160 GSM cardstock that I punched out with my tiny hole punch and coloured in the same buttercup yellow. So there's what I've got to start off with for going on the top of things, and I just need to see if I can come up with anything else or to stick it all together. I have used the tray and the little jug that I made, and then I have used some of the wire to make it look like there's some stems of something in there. Something that's been long dead, to be fair, but it just gives it a bit more depth. And actually you can see it better when I put it down there than when I hold it up. And then I've stuck my little tiny storage jars onto the kitchen cabinet, and I need a few more pieces to go on there. I've got an idea for doing a little teapot, but I need to find the right size bead, because everything I can find at the moment is either far too big or far too small, but I'm sure I've got the right thing somewhere. Now, as well as these, I've also been inspired to get out the first piece of 1/48 scale furniture that I made. Well, not so much a piece as a set, which is this little table and chairs, and to paint it up to match the colours of the cabinet. Now, the cabinet has been dirtied up. Neither the fridge nor these have done yet, but I've painted these up in the white and the green, and they're going to go in the kitchen as well. I've got a couple more things that I want to make to go in there, but I'm really pleased with how my 1/48 scale kitchen is coming together. That looks really uneven from where I'm sitting at the moment. Hopefully it'll look better when it's put into the room. To finish this video, I've stuck my newly made little fridge into my miniature kitchen. Now there's a couple of other things I still want to do in here. I need some things to go on the walls, including, I think, a little plate rack of some description, and I'm considering how to dress the windows. They need something, I just don't quite know what yet. However, I'm really happy with my little fridge. It has turned out marvellously, and I think it looks just the part, or at least it will once I age it. It's still a little bit too clean. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. And until next time, bye.